Hello, dear beloveds. I'm just having a look at things and learning about things. Hi, dear beloveds. I'm just in something I haven't seen before with my crazy hair. I've just given up. That's just the way it is, isn't it? We're all a bit crazy haired and wild and wonderful. Yeah, I'm in this new way of doing lives. Has anyone else discovered it and freaking them out? Freaking me out. But I'm here and I wanted to hang out and have a cup of tea with you and really just settle back in after a week last week that I can only describe as epic, mythological, mythic in proportions. It really just came sort of out of nowhere and, like so many good things, completely reoriented me. And today I can sit here feeling really confident and comfortable that that reorientation process has happened. But, you know, last Tuesday when it landed, it was, yeah, really, really unexpected. Even in the midst of all of this stuff, I think I sort of had a feeling that I had more well, I don't know. I think we always feel like we have a sense of control, right? And the beauty of this experience and this time right now is that we are awakening to the truth that we have no control. And there is no control in the dream, I should say. There are certainly lots and lots of things that we can be in control of in our interior life, and that invitation to become one with the mystic is very much part of it. But that's not what I want to talk about today. There's so much I could talk about, and I've missed you because I really did have to sort of sit in with myself as I went through this journey, which I can now see, you know, fittingly, having just gone through Easter, the crucifixion and the resurrection and the true meaning of these archetypal patterns versus the Christian ideology around them. So just to recap for those of you who are potentially not aware of what I was sharing or what was happening, I shared last week for the first time publicly that my marriage ended at the beginning of this year. And so now we find ourselves lovingly in our in this kind of quarantine bubble together, and that's really fine. We're actually doing really well with all of that, and in fact, that's become one of the blessings of this time, is that we're really finding a new way of being a family together, and you know, having to kind of do that together. There's no way to avoid that, and that's been really beautiful and really. You know, I think I always felt confident that we would be able to do this really well together and to break up well together. But you know, you sort of don't imagine that you're going to be so together in your breaking upness or reforming. And I think that's better language for me and for my family, is that we're renegotiating, reorienting who we are as a family and putting ourselves back together in a different way. And it's beautiful. My beautiful mum married us about 6 years ago, and she said to me the other day, I want to have another ceremony now, because we did a hand fasting ceremony where we tied a series of ribbons around our hands and made a vow to each other, a series of vows to each other. And now she would like to lead us in a ceremony where we will we'll undo those vows and we'll create new vows, but we'll do it with our children. So we're actually creating a family hand fasting ceremony, which I really love the idea of. So when we're allowed out of quarantine, I think we'll go back to the park where we got married, the beautiful Edinburgh Gardens in Melbourne, and go from there. So yeah, so last week was another layer of releasing my marriage and that partnership and making way for the new. So this process of awakening, regardless or generally, is a process of disorienting ourselves in order to reorient at a new higher level of consciousness. So we're awakening our consciousness, but we can't do that through the known. We really have to go into the unknown. And that's why we describe, you know, the work of the third level training, the work that I do as an intuitive, as the descent. We have to change our orientation, because so much about spiritual seeking is about this ascending. We want to go up and out and beyond. We want to awaken into some new paradigm paradigm, which is absolutely the function of our lives. But what we often don't recognize is that the beginning of that journey is the descent. So we descend into the cathedral of the heart to ascend our consciousness. And very often we just want to ascend. And we often want to do that because we want to bypass the difficult, the heavy, the seemingly that which we are judging as being lesser than, or less godly, or less pure, or less powerful, or less whatever. And instead, we are making peace with the fact that the only way to heal is wholeness or holiness. They, to me, are one and the same terms. So we're becoming holy by embracing, being with, embodying, and making room for all of that which we are. And so last Tuesday, I very, very unexpectedly got invited, and there was no invitation. I got taken into the underworld of my being to meet some pretty gnarly stuff there, some really, really heavy stuff, and without a language of judgment around good or bad, just aspects of me that really, really needed my attention and my love, and they needed my focus. And I guess I, like so many of us, had been so focused on the external, on how do we rebuild our lives in this time right now? How do we kind of get everything happening? How do I take an 8-day retreat into an online training? How do I, make the Institute work in an online way when we have a retreat model for the delivery of so much of our work? And that had, really been consuming so much of my attention that this kind of ending of my marriage had sort of sat right back. And of course, making my kids feel safe and all of that had been the priority. And then last Tuesday, this arrival so suddenly, so unexpectedly, and so totally consumingly of the descent. So suddenly I was no longer, it wasn't like a gentle kind of, we're going to potter our way down, which I think is kind of an illusion. I don't think we ever potter our way down into the underworld. I think we just sort of do it like, oh my God, here I am. And that was exactly it. And with all the love of my, soon to be ex-husband, I was able to go into a safe space to manage that. So, he really put some protective measures around me, and I was able to ask for what I needed, and I didn't have to parent, and I could step away from all the normal routine of my life in order to do the deep work, because there was no way around it. I couldn't muddle through. I tried for the first hour or so, and it was very clear that that wasn't going to happen, and really just hand myself over bodily to this descent into the underworld of my being, which is really, as I say, we don't have judgment around it. We are simply in that space of meeting ourselves in our wholeness, our holiness, all of us. Who am I in my fullness? Not just the parts I like to present to the world or the parts that seem comfortable, but really all of me. So I found my way through that really quite quickly, and I'm so grateful for that. And I say quickly, so Tuesday, Wednesday were both very, very intense days, and then I had that feeling of being like the newborn baby, just or the soft shell crab. I remember Rebecca Campbell sharing that analogy of the soft shell crab, that when the crab outgrows one shell, it moves into the next shell, it grows the next shell, it sheds the last one, it moves into the next one, but until that shell grows, it's really soft and so vulnerable, and has to really be really protected, because it can't function in the world because it'll get eaten, because it's got no armor on it. And I really was like a baby soft shell crab, really just sitting with that vulnerability, and then returning to normal life, coming back into mothering and food prep and running a home, which was actually a really lovely anchor. But it was about a 48-hour period that I had to process this, and I kind of knew that. And there wasn't more time. There isn't more time. My partner, friend, brother needed me back in the house and participating in our lives again. And that really was, my invitation to just get down and dirty with it. If I find myself in the underworld of my being, ready to meet some big, gnarly fears, then I will do it. I will do the damn work. I will not shy away from that offer, no matter how much there is discomfort and excruciating discomfort, unlike anything that I can recall in recent memory. And that's, a big reason why I feel like, the stability of my marriage was such a a beautiful comfort zone, right? Because I could get on with doing the work of delivering my training and being the leader of an institute and having all the space around me that I needed to really focus on this work above all else. And it became very clear that at the end of last year that that's exactly what I was doing. I was now sitting in a comfort zone rather than being honest and with integrity. I was aware that I was kind of behaving incongruently by staying here, because I knew that the invitation or the call to end the marriage was there, and it was really strong. And you know, it felt very holy. It felt like an invitation from God to really step out of my comfort zone. Now, it wasn't an invitation from God to end my marriage, because God's not interested in the finer details of who I'm in a relationship with. That's irrelevant. There isn't anyone better, there isn't anything worse. There is just, I was staying too long in the comfort zone, and for whatever reason, I knew the reasons why, because I knew that there would be a level of emotional chaos, regardless of how well prepared I was, in changing something so significant. And that chaos would be for myself, of course, but very much for my family and especially my children. And I was avoiding that because I wanted all the stability and the safety and the comfort so I could keep doing this work. And I didn't want to change that. I didn't want to disrupt myself. But of course, that disruption was the next step of my evolution, and it has been the next step of my evolution. And I went through all of that at the end of last year and had finally enough of a kick up the bum from God to take the action I needed to take. And then, of course, this intervening period, these last 3 months, have been a really lovely, gentle adjustment to that new phase. And then we thought we would be apart for the next few months, and that would actually make it very easy for us to have that gentle ease out of this phase of the relationship and into the next. And then, of course, the world shut down, and that meant that now we are all under one roof and we're not going anywhere, and we are with each other. And now that is the medicine, and that's the invitation. As I said, there's lots and lots in that is beneficial for us, and especially for the stability for our children. But there's also a lot that is then having to be processed in very close proximity, which is exactly what happened last week. And I really feel like I was just sort of hoping that I could leave all of that until a more convenient time. So thank you to all of you who have, I've been sharing here, but I was sharing on my Ricky Jane Adams page as well, and just following that journey along with me. But I really did want to kind of, show you where I'm at now, in a way, regardless of the external circumstance, which in this case happens to be, processing the end of the marriage during a pandemic. We are always being given an opportunity through our life events to awaken to a deeper level of our being, and to look at those places that we're hiding from ourselves, because if we're hiding from ourselves anywhere, then we're not in our holiness, we're not whole. And that is the work of our lives. There's no judgment in that. That is just the process. It will keep happening again and again and again. And that is the reason we're here. We're not waiting to reach the top of the mountain. There is no top of the mountain. If we have this illusory idea that somehow all life events will suddenly stop, as in causing us problems, then we've just kind of got it all wrong in terms of why we show up to this spiritual journey. What will end is our suffering relationship to those life events. And I think that's really what I have been able to see, is that when you are consistently in your devotion and doing the deep work of a deep faith, what happened to me last week, or what I was invited into or dragged into last week so lovingly, was such a gift to me. But if I didn't have that deep anchoring in my being, in my devotion, in my faith, then it would potentially have turned into a breakdown very quickly. And I could feel that. I could feel the edge of madness. And I share this with you not to sort of scare you, but because I think so often those of us who do have breakdowns are actually having breakthroughs. And I'm not the first person to say that. That's a very common idea in spirituality. And yet without the right conditions, or the people scaffolding us, or the strength within us to navigate that, those moments, those opportunities for rapid, accelerated awakening can become moments of rapid descent and no way to pull ourselves out of that. And that's really the work of having a deep faith, a deep devotion, is that you can find the limit, because we do have to go to the limit. We have to go to the edge of our being in order to meet ourselves. We have to become so disoriented that we can create a new orientation. If we're constantly in control and aware and we've got it all figured out, do you see how we never get, our perspective is never disoriented enough to allow us to meet ourselves anew? We're just repeating our history. We're repeating our personality, our identity, our addictions, our habits. So without that meeting the edge of our being and really pushing up against that, we can never meet ourselves in the fuller experience, the more holy experience of who we are. But if we don't have a foundation or an anchoring around us to do that work, then we can just descend into madness and never come out of it. So this is why community matters. This is why, you know, to me, being inside of a community of women or people who are doing the same work as us matters so much. And I deeply called on my sisters during this time, and I felt so deeply held. And it was no doubt the reason I could accelerate out of that so quickly. And I really, really, you know, want to honor every woman who was there for me, and every woman who doesn't know that she was there for me, but was there with me, because this sisterhood, regardless of whether you knew the details, you know, we are knit together. Those of us who've walked the path of the third level are a sisterhood beyond the 3D, and we've done this many, many lifetimes together. And so when one of us is in that state of rapid accelerated awakening, which might feel like crisis, or it might feel like ecstasy, whatever it is, we are all doing it together. And I was so acutely and blessedly aware of that this past week. And now I sit here on the other side of not only that rapid descent and return, I am now sitting here on the other side of the crucifixion and the resurrection. And I didn't get an opportunity to talk about it over the weekend because I really wanted to privilege being with my family. But I am aware of how much the archetypal pattern of the crucifixion and the resurrection have been playing out in my life in a very personal way. And, you know, I've spoken last year, and I shared a video of what I recorded last year about the true meaning of the resurrection, which is the opening of the inner eye of our Christed heart, to see the symbolic meaning of our lives and not to be stuck in the 3D, but to actually be able to see the 5D and the 3D at the same time, so we can see non-local and local concurrently, and we don't dip in and out. And this is the future of intuition, and this is where I sit today, ready and aware of what my next book is, with so much clarity. It's like I can see it all. And it was like, how could I not see it before? How could I not see what this book is, and the fact that it's mostly written? I just have to pull it together now. But I couldn't see what I wasn't ready to see. And that's the whole beauty of this awakening journey, is that we never reach the top of the mountain. We're never at the point where it's done, and we're here to do it. That's the work. And we cannot know what we're not ready to know. And now I see so clearly, and I'm so grateful. I'm so excited to bring this information together. And it's not, you know, new, but I think bringing it together in the way that I haven't done before is going to be really pivotal to people being able to access it. But the resurrection is the true meaning of it is the opening of the inner eye, the symbolic sight. I see beyond the illusion to the truth, and I am able to hold both of these gazes at once. This is what the mystic does. This is what Jesus's rebirth means. It is the opening of the inner eye to see the symbolic meaning. So when Jesus was, you know, being invited to go up on the cross, invited through the events of his life in his last days, or the first phase of his life, you know, that wasn't something he did with like, yay, high fives, let's do this, this will be easy and fun, but with a willingness to go where God was asking him to go, and not to say no, because the pain comes from the resistance to what God is asking us to do. So when I realized what was happening to me, and I'm in no way suggesting that what happened to me last week is akin to Jesus as being literally put on the cross, but it is a symbol of the crucifixion, that my own personal crucifixion, where I had nailed myself on the cross through fear, through illusion, through all of the things that caused me to believe in the separation from my true nature. And here I was now getting that opportunity to bring myself down from that suffering that I was enduring. The suffering comes from rejection of what is. So when we recognize, okay, this thing's going to happen. I have to meet this fear. This is big. This is gnarly. This is not where I wanted to be today. I don't want to be in COVID-19 pandemic land. I want to be in land where I go to Bali and hang out with my priestesses in the Shala. You know, whatever it is that we're resisting is where we cause our suffering. And, you know, for me, even though this was about the ending of my marriage and not about COVID-19, of course, the backdrop of my life right now is that I can't go and get those hits from the distractions, even the beautiful distractions like being with a group of women in Bali. Everything was inviting me to sit still with the discomfort. And that's what the crucifixion as a metaphor, as an archetypal pattern is. And that's why it's so powerful for us right now, is that we have to be hung on the hook. And this is how, you know, the work of the third level priestesses and the work that we're doing in training as intuitive guides matters so much. This descent to the underworld of our being is the journey that Christ took. It's the journey that Inanna took, to go into the underworld and to be hung on the hook. For Inanna, it was a literal hook. Her sister, Ershkigal, hung her on a hook. You know, Jesus was hung on a cross, but we must be hung. We must not be let off the hook. And right now, this pandemic is giving us an opportunity to hang on the hook, because we cannot access our distractions. We cannot easily find a way to go into the illusion and to just distract ourselves from what we have to do, which is the deep work of a deep faith. And for me, in this last week with this accelerated journey, I feel so excited about the timing. I feel excited now. I didn't feel excited then, because my baby priestesses and I are about to walk into the temple to do the training of the intuitive guide, which would normally happen by walking into the Shala in Bali together. And that beautiful container, that beautiful withdrawal from the outer world that we get, that privilege to be on retreat, we don't get to have that now. So these women have to do that through sheer force of will, through the sheer surrender to God, through sheer willingness to trust me and the mentors, and to go deep into this work without me literally getting to hold them in the 3D. However, you know, I am holding them in the 5D, and that's why I know that I had to go through this accelerated process this last week. And now as I sit on the precipice, we begin tomorrow, I can feel how ready I am to do that, because what is being asked of all of us right now is exceptional. It is more than we have ever been asked before. And it is such a powerful invitation to hang out on that hook, and even within that, to be unafraid of what that means, to know that we are being served to come to this new higher level of consciousness. So not only do I feel so ready to now guide these women into the non-local temple, and I've been seeing that beautiful non-local Shala that we're going to be working in for the next 8 weeks, instead of the literal Shala that we would be working in for 8 days. And I feel how willing these women are to gather with me there, and how compatible that is with the truth of what I do. I train women as priestesses of non-local consciousness. So it makes perfect sense that we should be able to gather non-locally and that not feel like a second or less optimal choice. It feels very congruent and very exciting. And now the veils have been lifted on what my next service is in terms of writing the book, The Future of Intuition. Understanding intuition as a way to map the evolution of our consciousness is what that is all about. Intuition simply being the byproduct or the secondary benefit of our awakening journey. And all of that's now just like, I can just say it. It's right there. I know how to tell you about this book, which for so long has been like sitting there in my consciousness, but not in focus, and like woo, 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 focus, coming, focus, going. And I'm like, I just want to see it so I can write it. And now I can. So thank you. Thank you for that descent to the underworld, even though at the time I would have told you it was the last thing that I wanted. And thank you to the world for providing the conditions for me to up-level the training and to offer a better program to my sisters, and to be so excited about that, rather than to feel like we've lost something, to know that actually we've gained something. So freaking powerful. I've got to have a sip of my water. I'm so excited. I'm sharing all of this. So yeah, it's really you know, the thing that I was most afraid of, which was that the ending of my marriage would cause a level of instability, which would mean that my service was compromised, has now turned into the truth that wherever I was hiding from myself in my comfort zone, for whatever reason, I am in hiding from God. And now I'm back in the journey of awakening. And I mean, I never went anywhere, but now I'm congruent with what God was asking of me. I resisted it for, you know, probably a while longer than I should have. That ending a marriage is not a small thing. And now I can see how much it's accelerating me and how much it's moving me to the next level of my service. I just feel so grateful and humbled by it all, and so grateful for the privilege of my life, for the conditions that allowed it, that I have, you know, so much support and love around me, that I can work with the tools that I have a sisterhood, and that I can do that knowing that everything is working on my behalf. And it's such a privileged place, and that privilege is not one I will squander, because my privilege is something I'm deeply, deeply aware of. And to be free enough to pursue your soul is a privilege that comes with a responsibility, and that responsibility is to meet our fear every damn day, because there's millions of others who don't know how, or do not have the privilege and luxury and space and time to do that. But I will never squander that opportunity, because there's only one of us here, and I'm so, so grateful that I can do this for myself and on behalf of all. Every time I set myself free, I set everybody free. And yeah, I just feel so grateful. So that's why I wanted to come live and share this kind of check-in, this slight ramble. Let you know a book is coming, The Future of Intuition, and I'm super, super grateful for that. And you know, just give you a little insight. I'd love to turn my camera around and show you what my office looks like right now, post relationship ending. My bed's there. This is my office. This is my bedroom. This is my life right now, and it's beautiful, and I love it, and I'm grateful for it. I'll see if I can show you. There's so many cords attached to this computer, it might not work. So that's where I sleep, right there, and this is where I work, right here. And you know, that's how it is right now. It's a freaking privilege, and I will not complain about that at all. And it's also different to how I thought my life would be right now. I didn't think I'd be, you know, sleeping in my office, but I actually have been so happy, you know, for having the courage to take the action to change the status of my marriage after holding my breath for so long. And now, yeah, everything is moving. So thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful for you all, and for what we're doing for ourselves and for one another. It is just, it's so powerful. We are never doing this for ourselves alone. Have a beautiful day. I'll be around a lot more. I do have on Thursday night a free circle, Descent to the Goddess. If you want to do an intentional descent with me to work with the energy of this time, I'll share the link so you can register, and we can go on that journey together. So please do come and go on that journey with me. I feel really, really ready for that circle in a big way. So much love to you all.